Good morning, guys. This is Sudarshan again. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video topic is going to be about Rahu and Ketu. What is the impact of Rahu and Ketu in your horoscope? What is Rahu? What is Ketu? What happens when Rahu is strong? What happens when Ketu is strong? Is strong Rahu really good for you? Is strong Ketu good for you? And so on and so forth. What are the impacts? What is the outcome of strong Rahu and strong Ketu? So I'm going to begin with an introduction of Rahu and Ketu before I even come into astrological terms. In Hindu mythology, and it's a mythology, obviously, mythologies are, according to me, these are the stories made to make you understand the importance of certain things. It is not the truth, but it is the way you can understand the aspect or true stories. So anyways, here it goes. So long time back, there were Devtas and the Danavs, the gurus, the good guys and the bad guys. And there was a fight between them for an elixir. It would, if you drink that, if you have those, you can live forever. And the good guys found it. When they found it, they basically tried to drink it all for themselves, and they wanted to prevent the bad guys from taking it. So what basically Lord Vishnu, Krishna, what it did is that once the thing came out, before it came out, there was something that came out was poison. So Krishna tried to deceive the bad guys. The good guy, the leader of good guy, tried to deceive the bad guy. He went into a bad guy's group and he started pouring poison into everyone's cup so that they would just go away, and the good guys really wouldn't have to fight them. But one of the bad guys, he knew what's cooking. So what he did is he deceived, and he dressed up as one of the good guys, and he came and sat in the group of good guys. This way, that particular person is Rahu, the bad guy. And he thought, if I can sit there and if when Krishna distributes the lifelong elixir, which will make them immortal, if I go ahead and drink that, I'm going to be amazing. I'm going to live forever, and then I can, bring up more bad guys through me, and I can give them the elixir as well. No one can defeat me. But the sun and the moon, they see him. They see the tail of the good guy, of a bad guy who was pretending to be a good guy. And that's how. But by the time they say and they tell Krishna that this guy is a bad guy, by the time they say this, he already had drank a little bit of elixir, and that made him immortal already. So what Krishna does is he uses his weapon, he cuts him off in two and divides in two parts. So the head part, or the body part, and on the upper part is what we know as Rahu, and the bottom part, or the tail part, is where we know as Ketu. So these are basically two parts of a bad guy, is what it says. And it was Rahu's idea. So Rahu is always someone who wants it. He's really smart. He's really cunning. He's really something who goes after the thing. He can deceive. That's the nature. That's what the story tries to tell you. And the Ketu is like, he's like, what the hell? I didn't even get anything, and I got punished. Because by the time the elixir was even going down, he was cut into half. But still, because it was a part of his body, it was cut into, and it didn't really die, but it couldn't even survive. And since it cannot feel anything, it's just the back portion of your body, the back part of your body. The only thing that it can have is nothing, right? So Ketu signifies nothingness, and Rahu signifies going for something. Now, coming back to the real interpretation in today's world, in Kali Yuga, Rahu is something. Ketu the nakshatras that Ketu have, they're basically Mula. One of the prominent Ketu nakshatra is Mula, which basically means source, where everything comes from. It's so obviously when a progeny comes out of a womb, it cannot go back. So Ketu is something that happened in the past. You cannot go back in the past. If Ketu is too strong, or if Ketu in your chart is placed in a way that hinders happiness, it's primarily because something from the past is coming into your present and it's kind of hindering you. So you have to run away from Ketu. You have to go towards Rahu. So coronavirus is basically something that's Ketu, and the vaccination that will come out is what Rahu is. But here's the thing. If you look 100 years back from this, jaundice was coronavirus, or malaria was a coronavirus for some part of the world. And then the Rahu came in, he brought in, Rahu is basically a scientific research. He's a research and development. He's something that it takes the world forward, because he's always looking a solution for a problem. Not necessarily a permanent solution, but he does find a solution. For example, malaria was a cause of death, or a jaundice was a cause of death, or measles was a cause of death long hundreds of years back, or maybe a few decades back in some countries. So what primarily happened is that Rahu found a solution to that, but not a solution to death. He found a solution to malaria. He found a solution to jaundice, or measles, or smallpox, or chickenpox, and so on and so forth. But it could not find a permanent solution. So that's where Rahu is. There is always going to be a new problem that Rahu wants to solve and has to solve. That's Rahu is. In your current birth, you are supposed to work on your Rahu, as opposed to something going towards Ketu. Ketu is something you already know. Ketu is something that you're branched out of. Rahu is the fruits of Ketu. You can say that. So whatever planet sits with your Rahu is an immature planet. It's amateur. He doesn't know really how to work in this world. So if you have a Rahu with Sun, basically you're learning to develop your self-respect, develop your ego, and so on and so forth. But if you have a Ketu with Sun, it basically says that you've developed this in the past lifetime, or your ancestors developed in their systems so nicely that you do not have to work towards it. If you have a Rahu with Moon, it says that you have to develop your emotional balance. You have to develop your objectivity in this world. You cannot be too emotional about things, but you have to, kind of create a balance between your emotions, what you want, and what your desires, and so on and so forth, your happiness, your luxury, and so on and so forth. If you have a Ketu with Moon, which is a very awkward and dangerous situation, it's primarily something that you've developed in your past lifetimes, or your ancestors, the lineage that you come from has developed it so nicely for you that you should no longer go for it. So what is vaccination? It's basically the way Rahu works. So you have a malaria, or you have a disease, and when the next generation comes in, you already have you know the disease, you know how you can solve it. So what you're going to do is you're going to first inject it with a form of a cell, a solution of the same disease in a very, very less powerful state. Weak state, let's put it that way. So what basically happens is, when you inject a person with a very weak state of, let's say, for example, a parasite, your body then creates an immune system around that parasite, and then it keeps building a strong immune system, because now your body knows what that parasite does, or how your body reacts to that parasite. So that's the reason a lot of kids, when they have the vaccination for the first time, they usually have fever for the first day, or maybe a day or two, because that's what it gives. But that's kind of building your immune system. That's vaccination, and that vaccination is a part of Rahu. But if you overdo it, that's a problem as well. But the problem is you do not think about Rahu, because Ketu is something that you already know. So let's say, for example, if you have a Venus with Ketu, you're most likely coming from a family who loves sweets. You love sweets, or someone um, whose father or lineage who are extremely attracted to sweets. They're someone who would have taken care of money, worried about money, worried about luxury. They'd be like, okay, we should do this, and this is how we maintain relationship, and so on and so forth. But the next generation comes in, because they already know it. Now if they continue to do it, it's only going to degrade the condition, because they've reached the peak of or epitome, or the best of what they could have done in that area. Now, since they've reached the top, the only way now you're going is down. So that's what Ketu signifies. You've already reached the top. Now, whatever step that you're going to take towards it, it's always going to be down, down, and down. And it's going to be depending on which part of downslide you are. But it's going to be pretty bad, something that you don't like. So imagine this: you have a plate full of whatever, you've just had it. You've had you're full. You've just finished your lunch, and your favorite food is put in front of you. So you're confused. You've just had a plate full of that. You're full. You don't want to eat anymore, and then you have more of that same favorite thing, and that's what Ketu signifies. You do not want that anymore, but you do want that's all you've had your entire life. You know how it tastes, you know how it feels when you put it in your mouth, and so on and so forth. But you are repulsed and attracted at the same time. That's Venus and Ketu. Rahu is something that you don't know. You are developing in this birth. You're developing it for your future generations. If you have a Rahu in the first house, you're basically developing your own personality. You're working on yourself. If Rahu and Ketu are always 7 houses apart, because that's the reason the mythology says Krishna cuts the Rahu in two, puts one part on the one side and the Ketu on the other side, and he does some magic which makes sure that they don't ever come together. They're always 7 houses apart. They're always 2 hemispheres apart from each other. So Rahu in the first house says you're developing yourself. You have to develop yourself. You're focusing on increasing your presence, understanding your own body, understanding your own mind, and trying to figure out the things that works for you so that your future generations could work for it. But the problem is your Ketu is in the 7th house, and you put a lot of emphasis on other people, because that's what your ancestors have been living through. That's what your past life, if you believe in past life, then that's what it has brought, which means that basically you come from a family, you come from a background where everyone used to focus, or everyone focuses on building relationship with others. The problem is now you are overcooking it. You already gained the maximum that you can from business, from networking with other people, from contacts with other people. Now you have to focus on building yourself. Now you have everything that other person can give you. Now you have to use that on yourself so that you can develop yourself. Rahu in the 2nd house, Ketu in the 8th house. It brings it's kind of a good position to have in many ways, but because Ketu in the 8th house, it's basically coming from ups and downs, a lot of ups and downs. Rahu in the 2nd house is someone who should be focusing on money, family, and so on and so forth. He should be avoiding 8th house. So if you can work on your Rahu, it is a good position. But if you keep focusing on yourself on Ketu, you're going to keep going back to your ancestral mistakes, and you're going to keep going back, and your life is going to be too much up and down, because that's what you're attracted to. That's where you come from. You're prone to live a hippie life. If you like too much of a hippie life, obviously your stability that comes from the income is not going to come out, and it's not going to come out really good. if you're too much focusing on inheritance, if you're too much focusing on free money, a money that your partner's money or partners, you're relying on that, one or the other way, you're going to find it difficult to gain any benefit out of it, because you've gotten all the benefit that you can. Now there is nothing more you can gain out of it. You have to move towards Rahu. You have to work on your finances, then working on partners' finances. Rahu in the third house, Ketu in the ninth house is again a very good position, because ninth house is religion, and religion is religion, spirituality, more like dogmatic principles of religion. So if you're more focused on that, again, it creates. So religion, spirituality is something that I hear a lot of people come to me and say, can you see this? Can you see this in my chart and tell me if I'm getting a moksha, or if I'm getting a liberation from this birth, or is this my last birth, and so on and so forth. The thing is, the more you run towards it, the more you kind of separate from it. You're not supposed to think about it. You're not supposed to go for it. You're not supposed to read Bhagavad Gita or Bible or Quran or whatever is your religion. You're not supposed to read that with an objective that I will read that because it gives me this. No, you cannot. If you're a believer with the ninth house, you cannot just run. The stronger your belief is, the lesser you're connected with the nature. You're less connected you are with the spirituality, because religion is not necessarily synonymous with spirituality. That's what ninth house Ketu does. He breaks down your religion. He makes you question religion. He makes you question everything that is in existence. You're not blinded by the faith anymore. Third house Rahu generally tells you that anyone before you is not alive. So you may have had brothers or sisters, or your mother may have a couple of abortions or miscarriages before you. It may also show that you may have a stepbrother or sister before you, but not necessarily, depending on which part of the world you come from. Some countries, they don't really engage in remarriages as often as in some other parts of the world. So the interpretations may differ from your culture that you come from, but it definitely says that your mother may have had an abortion. Rahu in the third house is usually someone who's last in the family. So, someone who's survived. No one before him has survived, or her has survived. So that's Rahu in the third house. So there's a story of Krishna and Kans, where, because Krishna's chart, Rahu is in the third house. Obviously we don't know what's the birth chart and everything, but if you're assuming that the story is true, and the birth of Krishna is true, and the chart is available, then he would have Rahu in third house, because there were 6 brothers and sisters who were killed by his own uncle, because someone predicted, an astrologer predicted for his uncle, that your sister's son is going to be the reason for your death. So what he's a mighty king. He's a very powerful. So what he does, he puts his sister and sister's husband in the jail, and every kid that comes out of her sister, he just goes out and kills them. He's like, okay, if I'm going to kill every single kid, there's no one who's going to be able to kill me but Krishna. So he kills every single one before Krishna is born. And what happens is, the day Krishna is born, there's a storm. There is a huge storm in the state, and somehow one of the good guys, the gods, they come into light, and what happens is, someone takes the Krishna from one place to another, and no one knows what happened to, and the kid, when it's born on the day it's killed, it is someone else's kid. It's not her sister's kid. Her sister's kid, Krishna, is raised by someone else. And he's taken from Mathura to Vrindavan, and that's why if you go to Vrindavan, it's everything you see is Krishna and Krishna and Krishna. So that's how the Rahu third house says that Rahu is usually the last lineage. Rahu in the fourth house would be someone who is learning to understand what a life in home country would be, or home state, or mother, how to behave with a mother, how to understand real estate market, how to understand a home, living in home, and so on and so forth. They probably come from a lineage who spent a lot of time outside their home or home country. They spent a lot of time in politics, as opposed to managing their home business or home work or tranquility at home, happiness. So Rahu in the fourth house is someone who's extraordinarily happy, overtly happy. Even in the sad things, they would say, "Oh, that's amazing! That's amazing!" They don't really realize the balance of being happy. That's what Rahu is all about: finding the right balance, not overcooking it, not underdoing it, but doing it just appropriately. So that's Rahu. Rahu is someone you run after. You're like, go, 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 go. You're trying to learn. It's like it's a new excitement. So if there's a relationship between a guy and a girl, what you see at the beginning, how the relationship, the guy does overly new things, or things that girl likes, or maybe the girl does things that that a guy likes. That's kind of a Rahu thing. It's a new thing. He's new into the world. He's right now. He's just learning to sense what it is to be like in the fourth house, and third house, and the second house, and the first house. He's just learning. So he's overdoing it. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and it's going to make me feel great. But no, you're overdoing it. You got to find a balance. Ketu in the 10th house, it takes you, it gives you a natural affinity to career. You don't really have to work on Ketu stuff. You already know it. But what you have to learn is to go away from Ketu stuff. Whatever house Ketu sits, you have to go away from it, because you already know it. You stop running for moksha, and maybe if there is moksha, you would get a moksha. Stop running for getting a blessing from a god, but do the right thing. Okay, that's what Gita says. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Just do the work that you're supposed to do. Do not worry about the results, and you'll get the results. That's Ketu in the 9th house. Someone who doesn't really worry about the results of the religious deeds that he does is Ketu in the 9th house. Ketu in the 10th house is more or less similar. Again, Ketu is also a flag, a winning flag, or something that you've already accomplished. Stamping your authority. You've been there. You've proven that you're good at it. Your lineage has proved that you've been there and you're really successful at it. That's what Ketu is. So you would usually not have to work towards your Ketu, wherever your Ketu is. But it's kind of difficult for you to get away from it, because that's what you are. You eat at night. That's Rahu. The next morning, you want to go and clean your stomach out, and that's your Ketu. It's already there. You've gained the maximum out of it. You've gotten the carbohydrates. You got the protein. You've got the vitamins. You got everything out of it. Now whatever is left is what Ketu is. So you have to be able to differentiate between the benefits that you've already gained and the negatives that's left. You have to leave it. You have to throw it out. That's what Ketu is. So next is Rahu in the 5th house. Rahu in the 5th house is someone who would like kids, who would love kids, who would want, but they don't really know how to behave around kids. They're confused. They're like, oh, great, I have kids around in my house, and I'm going to do this and this and this. But what they don't know, kids have their own mind. They don't necessarily behave. If you give them a chocolate, if you give them a toy, it doesn't mean that they're going to be loyal to you or they're going to talk nice to you. They get that all the time. And what kid would do is they would just go ahead and maybe insult you in the next 5-10 minutes or 15 minutes. They may say something that you don't like, and you'd be like, wait a second, I just behaved as a really nice person to this kid, and what's going on? So it's, again, you have to understand, you are learning, you're trying to understand how exactly you are going to be around kids. That's Rahu in the 5th house. If Rahu in the 11th house is someone who's coming from a lineage who have had an experience of, wealth management, who have a huge amount of network, someone who's had good friends, take benefit out of friends, and have had attained the maximum benefit of the networking that they can. So now they have to, instead of relying on their neighbors and friends, now they have to rely on their kids. They have to learn to rely on their kids. They have to learn to work with their kids. That's Rahu. Rahu in the 6th house, Ketu in the 12th house. Again, a very good position. This means someone who's attained spirituality, someone who has worked towards, who's understood religion, who's understood the juice of the religion, not necessarily dogmatic religion, who says, oh, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, and so on and so forth. They're not adamant at their religion being the best religion, but they've taken the crux out of all the religions put together, and they're like, okay, these are the best stuff, and I'm gonna put it into a pill, and I'm gonna swallow it down. That's what Ketu in the 12th house is. Again, 12th house is the house of losses, so it's usually easy to get away from the Ketu stuff. You're not, although you already know what it is, you're not going to go back to it. Rahu in the 6th house would summon, he's like, okay, too much of spirituality, too much of losses and all that, but now I'm going to go towards other people's money. So that's basically debt. I'm going to borrow money and I'm going to work on it. I'm going to learn how to manage debt. I'm going to learn how to deal with enemies. Sometimes you may create overtly more enemies than you necessarily have to because of the way you talk, communicate, and so on and so forth. But again, when you're engaged with the enemies, it's best you have your eyes on your enemies. All right, so that's basically Rahu. So you're focusing too much on Rahu. There's no problem when you're concentrating on your enemies and trying to find the ways how you can defeat your enemies. There is nothing wrong with that. You may have 4 or 5 or 6 strategies working out. So you may be thinking about enemies. You may be thinking about debts. You may be thinking about being friends with your enemies, your frenemies. That's someone who doesn't like you, but you're still trying to go ahead and say, you know what, let's just end the animosity between us and just be friends. Just trying to work something out. So that's 6th house Rahu. Rahu in the 7th house is someone who's too much focused on other person. Ketu in the 1st house would usually give you a mark on your face. It may give you, again, some kind of injury to your forehead. It may also, Rahu in the 7th house would mean that you are focusing on other people. You're focusing on sex too much. You're focusing on you're thinking too much about your genital area. You're thinking too much about how can I please other person? You're going out, you're learning. Ketu is on the 1st house is saying that, okay, I'm going to stay away from myself. I'm going to focus on other person. I focus in the past lives, everyone in my generation and in my past generation, in my lineage before me has focused on themselves, developing themselves. Now but they never worried about how am I going to network. It's the exact opposite of how Rahu in the 1st house and Ketu in the 7th house. Now you have to focus on developing relationship with other people. You're learning, you're understanding. Sometimes you may overdo it, but that's how you learn. And that's what happens after the age of 36, 35. In all these Rahu and Ketu conjunctions and positions, you tend to learn and say, okay, this is the probably a right balance. So 40, 35, 40, 45 is when usually, depending on the dignity, the degree, the nakshatra, and other aspects onto it. So that's the reason. But usually it's about 35, 40, 45. You tend to learn the mistakes that you've done, and you tend to go away from it. Ketu in the 2nd house, Rahu in the 8th house. It's not a great combination. In fact, if you in natural science you would say that Rahu is in a debilitated house or debilitated sign in natural houses. Taurus is a debilitating sign for Ketu, along with Gemini as well. And 8th house, that's Scorpio. If you're attracted too much towards up and down, you're attracted towards hippie life. You're not structured. You're not someone, you may be coming from a structured life, but that's what you're expected to do. You have to go away and go towards living a hippie life, a life that is unorganized, where you live in trailer park kind of a life. You're attracted towards violence. You're attracted towards anything that is chaotic. You create chaos. You're too much. You're like fearless. You're not afraid of anything, and that's kind of, you overcook it, overdo it, and that can bring serious health conditions for you. It can bring some longevity issues for you as well. Again, depending on degree, sign, nakshatra, aspects of different planets, which nakshatra you were born in. So maybe you never come across Rahu Mahadasha. You're born in Mool Nakshatra, Ketu, and it takes 50 years before you reach a Rahu Mahadasha. So you never really activated the 8th house, or Rahu itself, if Rahu is sitting alone. So these stuff matter a lot as well. Rahu, Ketu in the 3rd house, Rahu in the 9th house. Ketu in the 3rd house would generally mean that you are the first, and anyone coming after you doesn't necessarily have a long life, or doesn't survive, or your mother can have miscarriages after you, or an abortion after you. So you're the eldest, as opposed to Rahu, who is the youngest and the only survivor. Ketu is the oldest, and no one else after him survives. So basically, if you look at it in this way, then Ketu is taking you away from your skills. 3rd house is house of skills. 3rd house is house of courage. 3rd house is where you go out and do stuff. It's a good house for Saturn. It's a good house for Rahu. Ketu, not necessarily, because Rahu is going in the 9th house. He's going towards religion. He's going towards spirituality. He's saying that, okay, go to temple, praise the God. You will get this, you will get that. But the point is, you will not. So that's the reason Sagittarius and Scorpio, spiritual signs, the water signs and the fire sign, is not so good for Rahu, because overdoing it or trying to learn that, it could be a tricky situation for you. Ketu, on the other hand, if you're in the 3rd house or 2nd house, it's a great position. It's not a great position because, again, if you're letting go of your skills and if you're relying too much on luck, you don't really know how it works out. But somehow, somewhere, it's going to start, and this is how it starts. But it's better to, when you have Rahu in the 9th house, it's better to focus on foreign things, foreign learnings, as opposed to religion of your own. Because 9th is also foreign, 9th is also your own religion. It's spirituality. So if you focus too much on foreign things, maybe that'll give you better results as opposed to focusing too much on religion. Rahu in the 10th house is someone who's now learning to create a public image. He's understanding that, okay, public image is really important. Career is really important. Having a political career, understanding politics, and so on and so forth is really important. So he's learning to go through that. It's not a bad position overall for someone who has good Venus, or someone who has okay Saturn. Rahu in the 10th house can work out really nice. Rahu in the 11th house and Ketu in the 5th house. 5th house is also a house of, again, ancestral fruits. Essentially, all the houses are, but 5th house is specifically that, and Ketu in that, it's kind of telling you that you're not really going to gain too much out of the fruits from the previous birth or the lineage. You're going to kind of have to throw it away. It's all damaged. It's all damaged goods. Someone before you or you yourself have maybe 10 years in the making, you've used it, and now you don't have any use of it. So 5th house kind of gets damaged because of that. And Rahu in the 11th house, it focuses on friends, network, circle, wealth management, and trying to understand your desires. You're trying to work on your desires. Like, okay, what am I going to do and what am I going to get? You're working on desires. So Rahu in the 11th house is, again, a very good position, but Ketu, I'm not so sure. It can depending on other positions, your Jupiter sign, which is a natural karaka, and Sun, which is obviously the natural ruler of 5th house. It depends what Ketu would give, but Ketu is also a house of children. So you may not like children, or you may have children and you may not be really um, able to understand what they want or how should you behave with them, or it comes naturally to you. But then again, you've gotten the main benefits, truth, um, out of them, the kids. It usually signify male child. Ketu is male. A gender, um, and Rahu in the 11th house. Next, Rahu in the 12th house, Ketu in the 6th house. Someone who's averse from taking debt, who knows how to manage debt, who knows how to manage enemies and all that stuff. But at the same time, they do not focus on this. If you focus too much, you've come to a situation, you've come to a condition in life where you've gained the maximum out of your enemies. Anything more, and you're going to put yourself into a bad situation. Rahu in the 12th house is focusing too much on isolation. He's like, I'm not going to worry about enemies. I have to work on myself. I have to work. I'm going to go to secluded places. Someone who loves esoteric places, someone who loves exotic places, goes alone on trip. Someone who loves to sleep longer. Someone who is never, always trying, doesn't put too much emphasis on losses. It's like, okay, it's fine. If I lose something, he's kind of running towards things that gives him loss, and he's trying to find himself in a situation. He or she is trying to find himself or herself in a situation where the person is trying to make peace with losses in his life. And the way he finds his peace is by going alone in a secluded places, trying to differentiate or run away from the daily life, and so on and so forth. So that's my interpretation of Rahu and Ketu in different houses. I've already told you, you have to work towards your Rahu. And these two are the main reason why you are on this planet, why this planet in itself is in the first place. Rahu rules the number 8 in itself, so it's complicated. It goes like this and this. That's what Rahu is. It goes up, down, and it's always circle. Rahu and Ketu in Chinese culture, they're yin and yang. The black part, if you've seen the symbol, it's round, and there's a divide between it. There's a symbol S, and there's a white side and there's a black side. So that's Rahu and Ketu. It's a balance of life. If there is too much good in life, then there will be a bad influence, a powerful bad influence who will take and balance the good. If there is too much bad in the life, there will be someone really good who will come and try to balance it out and take away the bad guy. So that's the yin and yang. That's the balance of Rahu and Ketu. That's the Satyug. If there is too much Sat, then there will be people who will come and take the Sat away, and there will be Dwapar, and then there is another Yug and another Yug. There is a Kali Yug, as per Hindu mythology, which will end as well, and then it'll move into a new era. In Kali Yuga, you're supposed to think, or you're supposed to understand that there are a lot of bad people. So there is obviously someone good coming in to balance the bad, take out the bad people, and put more good in it. So it's basically like, balancing out. So Rahu and Ketu is that. In your horoscope, wherever Rahu is, wherever Ketu is, you have to work towards your Rahu. You may not like it because it makes you uncomfortable. You don't know anything about it. You're still new in managing your Rahu. Ketu is something that comes in your lineage. It comes in your blood, but you've gained the maximum that you can gain out of that. If you've taken all the vitamins, important stuff from that, all you can do now is go away in silence. Do not use Ketu no more. Go for Rahu. Work on Rahu. Develop your Rahu. Whichever planet Rahu sits with, you have to work on that. Whichever planet your Ketu sits with, you will not be benefited on working with Rahu unless it's 3rd or the 6th house. But it will give benefit for your next generation to work on it, because you would have developed that much more out of it. And if you work on Ketu, let me tell you this, not only you are not going to get benefit, but also your next generation is going to be born in something like Mula Nakshatra or something, Ketu Nakshatra, which is kind of damaging. You're still going back to your past. You're aligned to your past. You're connected to your past. That's the reason in science, you generally believe that cross-culture marriages are better because you bring in you. That's the Rahu. That's Rahu's influence. If you marry in the same gotra, that's kind of Ketu, or in Hindu mythology. If you marry someone in the same family, that's again it's similar to Ketu. You're running towards back. Whichever religion, culture you belong to, if you go back to the same religion, same culture, and everything, you're gonna surpass the best benefits that you got out of it, and then eventually you're gonna run into the bad aspects of your own religion. Nothing is pure, nothing is perfect. Everything after a certain extent gets turns into a poison. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I'm going to post the same video in Hindi as well for my Hindi viewers. So stay tuned and like my video if you liked it. I'm trying to post different videos and different perspective from my own experience. Also, subscribe to my channel so you can keep tuned for the next video.